Now, the mandate of the Clergy Housing Task Team, it was to review the contributing factors to the cost of clergy housing and assess if current compensation for housing is adequate for the need. We reviewed the differences between housing in parish-provided rectories and providing a housing allowance to offset the cost of the cleric being in their own home. Our diocese covers a large geographic area, both rural and urban. The committee chose as a model for purposes of comparison for a single family, three-bedroom home, and appreciating that housing costs vary widely on individual family situations as well. Clergy with dependents are likely to need more space and have greater demand on resources. Now, housing allowance versus rectory. I'm not sure there are answers. It depends in a lot of cases. But the trend has definitely been for clerics to move from having living in rectories toward housing allowances. At the present time, there's only about 17% of clergy currently occupying a parish-provided rectory. Now, the housing allowance calculation that we're using is 40% of the stipend of the cleric. This creates a range using the present minimum stipend scale of $14,236 to $21,788 in annual housing allowance based on the current minimum stipend scale. The committee recommends that housing be considered separate and apart from clergy stipend, no longer a percentage of stipend. The cost of housing does not directly relate to the stipend a cleric receives. It's more dependent on where the cleric lives, and we've tried to take that into account. Now, this question of, are you better in a rectory or better owning or renting? And we've done a comparison of two cases. Most clergy receive a housing allowance instead of rectory accommodation. And so we tried to compare typical situations in each case. And it is not precisely apples to apples, but looks at the overall gross. And clergy A, that's the one who owns their own home in the examples given, receives a higher gross monthly income, but has their own housing costs, and in turn, the potential changes in property values, which can be good or bad, along with responsibilities with home ownership. Clergy B receives less gross income, that's the one living in a rectory, and does not have the same benefits or burdens of home ownership. And that's what makes it so very difficult to compare and say one is better than another, and it depends very much on a family or an individual's personal situation and what their needs are in housing. Now, we looked at dioceses across the country, and there are lots of variations. There's no common solution or approach in providing this part of compensation. Calgary and Edmonton do not differentiate a separate housing from the overall compensation. 4 dioceses that we had information from provide housing allowances based on realtor estimates for the community in which the cleric lives. the community in which the cleric serves. Important distinction. Huron Diocese and two others, Saskatchewan and Caledonia, provide a range which ties into the clergy person's years of service. So there are two others to be found that it's tied to stipend. Now, in the course of doing that research, we found a model that's used in the United Church, and it has some parts to it that we think we can make use of. The United Church model, they worked for 7 years putting that one together with the task force, and we really don't want to spend 7 years working on it, but they did a very detailed analysis. They developed a thorough geographic assessment, and they now provide their clergy a single, comprehensive compensation that incorporates both base salary and housing. So both sides are considered in determining the total. We don't want to make it as complex as what the United Church has done. And we want to take a wider lens and provide a simpler solution, but still one that would reflect the cost of housing where clerics serve, and yet would still be manageable and can be regularly re-examined and adjusted and assessed. So our recommendations are to maintain separate housing amounts and stipend. People understand how that works. It's very clear how much of the compensation is based on housing and how much is based on stipend. We recommend that there be 2 minimum housing zones created within the diocese. The basis of these are the cost of living groups that were created by the United Church of Canada to address that part of their pay structure. They have 6 zones all across the country, and they aren't all present within the Huron Diocese. But we did combine some of those zones that were fairly close together. And we're proposing that there would be the 2 zones. Zone A, and that would be for all clergy outside the Deanery of Waterloo, would be 17,500. And that, we hope, if it goes through all the approval stages, could be implemented by next year. We also recommend that there be a Zone B that would apply in the Deanery of Waterloo, and the minimum housing allowance in the Deanery of Waterloo would be $21,000. And that's because real estate prices are so much higher in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge than they are anywhere else in the diocese. Now, clergy may, in compensation with the bishop's office, negotiate a housing allowance greater than the minimum for their zone. Just that can be done now under the present system that we have. Minimum housing allowance for part-time clerics would continue to be calculated on a prorated basis. And the zone is determined by the location of the parish rather than the location of the cleric's accommodation. Now, that means that if a parish outside of but near the Deanery of Waterloo hired a cleric who wanted to continue living there, and that was okay with them, they're not going to be paying housing allowance on that basis unless it's negotiated. And Also, a cleric who commutes into the Deanery of Waterloo, their housing allowance would be based on the housing allowance for Deanery of Waterloo, even though they may live in another area. Now, we recognize that for some parishes or regional ministries, an immediate increase may be financially challenging. Something like 70% of clergy would receive an adjustment under what we're proposing, an upward adjustment. If necessary, these parishes may opt to phase in the increase in equal or greater increments over a 3-year period. If it is effective January 1, 2019, then as of January 1, 2021, all clergy would be at or above the minimum housing allowance for their respective zone. Human Resources Committee will review the Zone A and B figures at least every 3 years based on market data. And I want to emphasize the at least because sometimes things can change quickly and markets need to be taken into consideration. So, effective January 1, 2019, if approved, housing allowance for new clergy and new appointments will be paid in accordance with the minimum housing allowance policy that we're proposing. Let's look at our 3 clerics. First of all, Nicole. Nicole's current housing allowance is $17,131. In January of 2019, it would increase to $17,500, unless she's in the KW area, in this deanery. If she is in the Deanery of Waterloo for 2019, it would be a minimum of $18,421, increasing by $1,290 a year for 2020 and 2021, when it would be at the $21,000 level, which might by that time be adjusted. Clayton. If Clayton isn't in the Deanery of Waterloo, his housing allowance remains the same unless he negotiates otherwise with his wardens. If he's in Deanery of Waterloo, it would be $19,741 in 2019, increasing by $629 a year in each of 2020 and 2021. If Clayton moves to a new parish, he would receive the minimum housing allowance for that zone unless he negotiates a higher housing allowance. So in that case, if he moved to a different parish, his housing allowance would be the minimum for that zone, but as part of the negotiation of going to that parish, it could be higher. Zach. Zach's current housing allowance is $1,450, and it would increase over the next 3 years to reach either $17,500 if he's outside the Deanery of Waterloo, and $21,000 if he's in his parishes is outside, as in the diocese, the Deanery of Waterloo. So Zach would get quite a significant increase in his housing allowance in a fairly short time. And that goes back to something that I said earlier about looking at the cost of housing having a very large impact on the needs of the cleric.